Hi guys, Master Ferris here with today's tip for your self-defense training. We have 3 phases of learning that we go through, and the first phase, let's say we're talking self-defense here, so you have 5 self-defense techniques to memorize. Again, this is for ages 7 and above. The requirements are slightly different for our juniors, but really the same principles apply. And the earlier you learn these things, the easier that it's going to be later and the better you're going to get quicker. All right, so 3 phases of learning with the self-defense techniques. Let's take our 5 current white belt self-defense techniques, also as yellow belts as well. Memorize them once you've got them memorized, and so a quick memorization should be able to just kind of quickly run through without too much thinking about it. And that's the memorization phase. Once you do that, you want to work into the second phase, which is doing them correctly and trying to perfect your technique, which is what I'm going to cover today. And then the third phase is going to be where you bring all of this stuff to life. So in order to do self-defense and make it believable, there's one element that really is probably more important than all of them. And they're all important. So we have the 6-point success principles that we use in our school here all the time, which apply to your self-defense as well. And that's the 3 C's, clean, crisp, and clear, and the SPI principle, which is speed, power, and intensity. So with those 6 things, every technique that you do will be as close to perfect as it can be. So one of those things that we didn't cover in that success system, because sometimes it doesn't apply to other things, but it definitely applies to self-defense, that's timing. All right, so if you perform a self-defense technique and you perform it at the wrong time, let's say like before the other person tries to even throw a punch at you, you just unleash with your self-defense techniques, well then it's not really believable because it makes you look like you started the fight. So if you do it too late, it looks phony again, because people can tell you got hit, and then you try to step off and do your self-defense techniques. So you have to watch the timing. So the idea is when the punch is coming, that's the reason we do these positions here. We touch fists. So when I touch fist to my opponent's fist, we're measuring the length of the arms, and that way I can just step back. Only with one leg, I'm not going to take 2 or 3 steps back. I'm going to take 1 step back, which allows me to keep my measurement from my opponent the same. And when I step forward and punch, I want to be punching straight to the nose and being able to stop at about ½ an inch or an inch from the nose, so that my opponent has to see it coming at them and respond to it. Right? So if the other person is attacking and they yell, "Hi-ya," and then you just go right to this, "Hi-ya," and they punch at you, and then you start thinking, that was the problem with your timing as well. You should have waited for a moment to think through, okay, he's waiting to attack me. Let's see, self-defense number 1, I avoid to the right, I block with my left, I punch to the right, okay, I think I'm ready for it, okay, and then, "Hi-ya!" So that's the timing aspect, all right? That's one of the timing aspects. When you tell your partner you're ready, you have to actually be ready, and not ready to think, but ready to move and act. So when my opponent steps back to fighting motion and I yell, now the timing has to be as soon as the punch is started. So right about here, I'm already moving away from it. So let's say it's coming from that one. It's right about there, and I start to avoid it before it ends. So by the time that punch locks out, I'm already past it. It's missed me. Then I can block and throw my strike. And when I throw my strike, I have to watch that I'm not just going, "Yeah," right? I want to make it believable. So that's, again, these are parts of the phase 2, which is correcting it and perfecting it, and also phase 3, bringing it to life. So you would block, and then, "Hi-ya!" Your face expression has to look a little bit angry, a little bit intense. Your punch has to have some snap behind it. When you throw that block, the other person's arm should be like, "Ah, I didn't like that." So those are all parts of bringing it to life. So that when you get used to these self-defense techniques and you develop them over the course of a 3-month period, it should be second nature by the end of the 3-month period, and you should be ready to work on a little bit more challenging techniques and adding on to the techniques. So for the white belt, we use very basic techniques, and then for yellow belt, all we really do is add on to those techniques. For orange belt, we really add on to those techniques and change things up ever so slightly. But when we get to the intermediate level, things start to really, look different. We don't do the same techniques anymore, but we do have the ability to draw parallels back to what you learned as white, yellow, and orange belt with every single technique in our system. So there is some rhyme and reason to it. So I want you to be focusing on this week, and really all the time, on your timing. So just imagine a punch coming at you. In fact, I want you to try this with me on the screen. I'm going to step through and punch at you. Right about there, you should already be avoiding my punch. And by the time it locks out, you should be well off to the side here. Now, your positioning, you don't want to be over there because you can't return fire, and you don't want to be there for the same reason. You want to be able to move forward and right in here into my space. So I'm here, and you're right here, right in my face. and be able to block this and strike this or latch on, or whatever you need to do in that situation. So I want you to really think about the timing aspect. What happens a lot of times with kids especially is the fist comes out and it's locked out and it stops there for a good 2 seconds, and then the student then starts to move. That's what I'm talking about with your timing. So parents, work with your kids on the timing, and you don't have to be a martial arts master instructor or even a martial artist at all, just to stand there and have your child try to move out of the way of this. What I usually do is I'll use a palm and I'll show the student, because I don't want to punch them in the nose to prove that their timing was off, but I can give them a quick V8 shot and let them know, I got you, or I can touch the top of your head, which means you didn't move fast enough. So that's one of the ways you can practice at home with your kids. And you can also use a pillow to really soften that and just try to stuff the pillow into their face and make them move out of the way. They don't even have to practice the rest of the self-defense technique per se. It's good if they do, but if you don't have time, and really we need to work on that timing, is just put that in front of their face and make sure that they're avoiding it. So if it's coming at me right about there, I'm out. Right about there, I'm out. Right about there, I'm out. What I don't want to have happen is go one and then move, or get hit. All right, so that's all I have for you today. That's timing on self-defense. See you next time.